Welcome to Good Games Spawn Point, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo.
And I am Darren.
Okay guys, you ready to get down and muddy today?
Negative. My chrome alloy chassis is far too precious to be covered in a complex heterogeneous mixture of soil and water.
Darren, chillax, it's only virtual mud. Coming up on the show, the dirt bike shenanigans of MXGP.
Mud.
And we get our tyres stuck in the mud in the off-road sim SpinTires.
But first, Darren, I request your challenge, please.
Affirmative, Barjo. Boot up those cerebral cortices, spawnlings. It's time for Darren's challenge. This week on the show, I'm asking you, what was the very first game to feature Kirby? I'll unveil the answer at the end of the show.
That's a good question, Darren. But first, let's go to Goose with the news.
Affirmative.
Thanks guys, Goose here with all the gaming news from around the globe. Age of Empires Online is now offline, with its servers being permanently switched off. The free-to-play real-time strategy game was released in 2011 to wide acclaim. Since its release, there had been over 500 million single-player and nearly 14 million multiplayer quests played. The game's executive producer has attributed the shutdown to a lack of content. Scientists at the University of Illinois have produced biological robots that are controlled by living muscle tissue. The inbuilt muscles can be stimulated with electrical pulses, causing the miniature robots to move. While the science is still in its early stages, biorobots could eventually have a revolutionary impact on medical procedures. And that's all the news for this week. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Goose. All right, guys, let's get into the dirt of MXGP. MXGP stands for Motocross Grand Prix. For spawnlings out there who are unaware, motocross is a form of dirt bike racing held on enclosed off-road courses. Basically, it's the grittier, muddier version of MotoGP.
Yes, and like MotoGP, MXGP has an extensive roster of official tracks, riders, and bikes to take on. It's got your stock standard sports modes from customizable championships to career and quick play modes. And there's also online matchmaking, but sadly we couldn't find anyone.
Affirmative. And to make matters worse, there's no split-screen multiplayer to use instead.
Cheer up, Darren. There were some positives though, weren't there?
Oh, affirmative, X. One of the cool features that MXGP has over more traditional road racing is that there are a variety of different surfaces to race on. Each surface affects the amount of grip your bike can get, which changes the way you ride and take corners.
Yeah, and I liked that during the races, the tracks deteriorate, making the later laps a real challenge as you skid and bounce through deep tread marks left behind by yourself and other riders.
I especially noticed this in the practice and qualifying laps before the events. These sessions can run up to 30 minutes. I never played more than about 8 minutes of each before I moved on. I imagine a full half hour of racing would leave a ditch in the track to rival the Grand Canyon.
Hex, the Grand Canyon is over 1.8 kilometers deep in some areas.
Yeah, okay, maybe I was exaggerating a little bit.
Well, the ditches do certainly make navigating the course a bit trickier, which is the last thing I need. I'm not ashamed to admit that I had a bit of trouble getting used to the controls.
What a noob! No, Darren, it's all right. In your defense, the controls do take quite a while to master. But it's a good control system once you get the hang of it. Your left thumbstick controls the direction of the bike, while your right thumbstick shifts the weight of your rider. By leading the rider into a corner, you can make much sharper turns, but you risk falling off. It's a balance that you need to master in order to become competitive.
Yeah, you need to expect to fall off your bike a lot, but then so do your AI opponents. Super quick resets after crashes mean that you don't generally get penalised too badly for stuffing up. I love how scrappy it feels when you're amongst the pack. It's a genuine tussle to get free of other riders.
Affirmative. I preferred the first-person camera view because it made the racing feel at its most intense. And there were a good range of racing assists too, including physics settings to test even the most seasoned racing enthusiasts. You can also tweak your bike's suspension, brakes and gears before a race to optimise it for each track.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I get on a virtual dirt bike in a video game, I want to be able to do sick backflips. And the most I could do with this game was lean back a bit. It's not very sick.
Well, this is a game for motocross purists, Barjo. It's all about the racing. But we should wrap this up, Barjo. What are you giving it?
Visually, it does lag behind a lot of the other races out there, like Grid or Forza, but yeah, I think as far as motorbike racing games go, it's one of the better ones we've had in a while, so I'm giving it 6.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I'm giving it 7.
Well, get your coding figures at the ready, Spawnlings. It's time for another edition of Make a Game with Goose and Julian.
Roll the tape, Kerry!
That's my line.
Thanks, guys. Welcome to part 2 of Make a Game with me, Goose, and Julian. Thanks again for joining us, Julian.
Thanks for having me, Goose.
Now, in part 1, we learned all about the game-making tool called Scratch, and today we're going to start on the Good Game Spawn Point Invaders game. Now, Julian, what's the very first step?
We'll need to import the graphics for our game. You can use images already in Scratch, import new ones, or even draw your own sprites. Scratch even has a graphics editor built in.
Okay, well, we're going to use our own, which we've kindly prepared for you on the Good Game Spawn Point website, here.
Download the graphics to your desktop and then open up Scratch. Upload the graphics via the Sprites panel in the bottom left.
Now, graphical elements in Scratch are referred to as sprites, so don't get confused when we start using that term.
That's right, Goose. Now load in the sprites for Darren, Barjo, Hex, and Goose.
Ah, they look great. I can't wait to bring them to life.
Great work, Goose. Now let's add the humans to the game and their crab-like invader movement. Click on Barjo, and from events, give him a green flag block. From motion, slot in a go to X, Y block and insert -207 for X and 153 for Y. This is his starting position. Go to looks and slot in a show block. This commands his sprite to appear.
Now for movement. From control, drag across a forever loop. Into the forever loop, slot a repeat 10 loop. Change the value from 10 to 30. Now go to motion and slot a move 10 steps block into the middle of the repeat block. Go back to control and slot a wait 1 seconds block underneath the move block. Change the 1 to 0.3. That will make Barjo march across the screen.
Exactly. Now below that, go to motion and slot in a change Y by 10 block below the repeat loop and change the value to -50. This makes Barjo move downward. Below that, add another repeat loop with move and wait blocks inside. Only this time, make each movement -10 steps. Slot in another change Y by -50 block, and Barjo's movement pattern is complete.
Okay, let's test it. Ah, it works! Now, do we have to do the same for both Hex and me?
Not exactly. We can drag the script we made for Barjo onto both the Hex sprite and the Goose sprite. Then select the Hex sprite and change the starting position to X -167 and Y 153. Then change the Goose sprite starting position to X -127, Y 153. That way you're not all on top of each other.
And done! And it works! What impressive invaders we make!
Now for Darren's movement, this is different because the player gets to control him. Select the Darren sprite and from events, give him a green flag block. From motion, slot in a go to X, Y. Change that to X 206, Y -133.
Then from control, slot in a forever loop and pop an if-then loop inside it. From sensing, slot a key pressed block into the space between if and then. And from its drop-down menu, choose left arrow. Go to motion and slot a move 10 steps block inside the if-then loop. Change its value to -10. Below that, still within the forever loop, add another if-then loop, only with the right arrow and 10. Below that, add a third if-then loop and select space. Instead of a move block, go to Events and slot in a broadcast. Left-click on the drop-down menu and click Create New Message. In the text box, type Fire and then click OK. Now, let me test that. Success! The invaders now invade, and Darren moves left and right when I tell him to. He doesn't fire any lasers though.
That's because we haven't programmed that in yet. We'll get to the lasers next time.
Oh, I can't wait. But before we go, remember to save your project so we can continue working on it next time. Remember, you can catch up and rewatch all the parts to this series on our website here. Until then, happy programming. Goose out.
Julian out.
Thanks, Goose and Julian.
Okay, guys, I've almost got all the sprites loaded in. Hang on.
Barjo, you can fix your code after the show. You have to go answer questions now.
Oh, yeah.
What a noob.
Okay, no time to waste this week, Barjo. Let's dive right into this one from the Orange, who is in the Fling Bee at Melbourne in Victoria. I love you guys. I was wondering if you guys could tell me what you can get Super Pole Riders on. I mean, like on a tablet or whatever. And Darren, you need a new computer chip. Are there any new updates for Minecraft PE? And if there are, can you tell me when? And what is new Barjo do the face? Haruma! And you didn't need to do sound effects. Bye, Superman out! Well, to answer the questions, Orange, Superman Super Pole Riders is available as a free-to-play browser game, so you can hop online and run it on any PC or Mac.
And it's also available in Sports Friends, which isn't free, but is available on PS3 and PS4. It's also coming to PCs and Macs soon as well.
As for Minecraft Pocket Edition updates, yes, there will indeed be more updates coming out in the future. The next expected update is for version 0.9.0 and will supposedly add loads of stuff, including villages, new biomes, Endermen, wolves, ocelots, and all sorts of things.
Yes, and the list of planned features is massive, and I'm sure they'll keep on adding things for years to come. As for when it's coming out, well, as we recorded this, Mojang literally uploaded the new version. It usually takes a few days for the updates to go through, but by the time you hear this, I think the update will probably be live.
All right, well, hopefully you can enjoy that, Orange Superman. But moving on now to this one from Fred, who is in ... in Tasmania.
A warning to all spawnlings who wanted to get Planetary Annihilation. It is online only until it is released. I wasted $30, so keep that in mind. Actually, Fred, ever since we first talked about Planetary Annihilation, it has let you play against AI armies, so you don't have to play online if you don't want to. And they already added a campaign mode called Galactic War.
Yeah, it hasn't got any real story or anything, but it basically puts you into a randomly generated galaxy. Then it adds a whole other turn-based strategy element to it as you plan out how to conquer the galaxy, and then use real-time battles to decide who wins.
And you can, of course, play it single player against AI or multiplayer with real people. The choice is yours. But you are right, since you actually can't start the game without an internet connection. It's only a server check though, so it barely uses any data. So if your PC doesn't have internet, you can maybe set up a hotspot with a phone that should let you play. And hopefully you enjoy it and feel like that was money well spent.
All right, well, moving on to this one from the Evolutionary, who is in Ceylondia, outside Australia.
Ceylondia. Do you think they meant New Caledonia, which is, by the way, French?
I think that's actually the first true French fact that you've ever given, Barjo. But no, I think they definitely meant Ceylondia. It's the name of the city that was destroyed in Bastion, Barjo.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Bastion?
yeah. Do you think that there might be a French Ceylondia?
Dear Good Game Spawn Point, I was wondering if you could please review Transistor by the same creators as the game Bastion. If I could receive a response, it would be much appreciated. Sincerely, the Evolutionary. Well, Evolutionary, we have actually reviewed Transistor on our other show. We really loved it. I gave it a 9.
Yes, it's great. I gave it an 8. And if you want to and your grown-ups are okay with it, you can watch that review on our other show's website. As far as we can tell, it hasn't got an official rating, but we'd say it's suitable for spawnlings.
Right, we're moving right along to this one, who is from me, who is right here in New South Wales.
What's your question, Hex?
Oh, it's not actually from me. It's just the person. It says me. But
It's from me? Oh, well, I would like to know, how do you brush your hair?
The question is from the spot with a hairbrush. What?
Interesting. Okay, I had sent in questions like a billion times and it still haven't been answered, so I hope you answer these questions. 1. When's the next update for Cube World? It hasn't had an update since July 23rd, 2013. It's ridiculous. Is the developer still working on it? 2. When's the next Pokemon game coming out? 3. What does DERP stand for? P.S. Hex is epic, but I don't like Barjo because he's annoying. It's true, Hex, I am annoying. Darren is pretty cool and should become a famous rapper. His singing skills are terrible though. Sorry, Darren. PPS, can Darren introduce Hex and Barjo to his parents, Doreen and Donald? PPPS, Derp is so cute and I wish I can see him again. Well, the developer of Cube World, very recently posted a video showing off a new quest system they've been making. So it does seem like it's still being worked on.
Yeah, but they are making very slow progress, aren't they? It's something you always have to be wary with early access games. There's just no guarantee that the game will ever actually be finished or updated regularly. Most games do get finished though, but you still just need to be a little bit cautious, I think.
Yes, absolutely. We've even seen a few early access games get totally abandoned in the middle of development. So as a general rule, only buy an early access game if you're happy to play with what's currently available.
Good advice, Barjo. And the new Pokemon games are due out on the 21st of November. As for what DERP stands for, I can't remember. I think it was the data something.
Data robot for the...
Guys,
Hi, Goose.
Darren gave me this note to give to you guys. I ran all the way from the office. I think it was really urgent.
Oh, thanks. You can go now.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, Goose. Let's see what it says. The note says, DERP stands for the Data Entry Robot for Peace. Oh, well, there you go. That's interesting. Ah! It's a scary ringtone. Barjo speaking.
I see you got my gooseogram. Did you know that sending a fleet-footed messenger is one of the oldest forms of communication? In 490 BC, fabled ancient Greek hero Pheidippides ran 42 kilometers from Marathon to Athens to deliver the news of a great military victory against the Persians by the Athenian army. This incredible achievement was the inspiration for the modern sporting event, the marathon.
It's fascinating ancient history, Darren, but we should probably get back to the Spawnlings question.
Indeed, Hex. So, Darren, do you think you can introduce us to your grown-up bots?
I'd be delighted. You two should come over for dinner. Derp will be there too. It's robot school holidays.
Oh, that sounds lovely, Darren. Will your dad bot make his famous robot pasta?
Oh, affirmative. He cooks a mean oil and bolt sauce, which is topped with some beautifully freshly shaved iron filings.
Oh, I don't know about that, Hex. That sounds like robot food. I don't think we can eat that.
Yeah, it sounds lovely, Darren. Maybe we'll bring a salad or something that humans can actually eat.
Yeah.
But that's all the time we have for this week. And as always, if you'd like to ask us something, then send your questions in here.
Hey, Darren, will there be karaoke?
Affirmative.
I'll go.
What should we bring? It's been so long since I've been to a dinner party. Okay, guys, things are about to get seriously muddy with SpinTires.
SpinTires is an off-roading simulator set in the Russian wilderness, where mud is your biggest enemy. The ground is actually made of a deformable mesh that realistically squishes and swallows up vehicles as you drive across it.
Prepare to get stuck a lot. Pretty impressive tech, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's quite hypnotic watching the ground get churned up over and over again, but it's also a bit deceptive because sometimes the ground looks solid, but it isn't.
The game offers up to 5 fairly large maps to explore, with the ultimate goal being to pick up some logs from a lumberyard and deliver them to an objective. But before you start doing that, there's some work you need to do first.
Yeah, maps are blacked out by these cloaking vortexes when you start. And you won't be going very far if you don't plan out a route ahead of time. So first things first, you grab a little Jeep and go out exploring to unlock the cloaked areas.
As you explore, you'll also stumble across other vehicles and garages. Vehicles will unlock by driving up next to them, while garages require you to deliver garage points to them. They then act as a checkpoint, letting you recover a stuck or destroyed vehicle from them, or refuel and repair your current one. Also, every vehicle needs to be outfitted for the job at hand. So if you want to repair another truck, you need to attach a repair carriage. If you want to transport logs, you'll need a log carrier, and so forth.
This is a game that's all about little victories. Slowly and surely you navigate your way through the world, winching yourself out of trouble, only to end up stuck again a meter later. Every inch of progress feels like a real achievement.
Yeah, that winch is your savior. But it needs to connect up to an anchor point that's close to you, so you become totally paranoid about open fields or wide muddy roads, because if you get stuck there, you're not getting out.
Although you can swap into other vehicles, so if you do get stuck, break down, or need to refuel, you can attempt a rescue operation. But that doesn't always go to plan, does it, Barjo?
No, it does not. No. Come on.
Oh dear. You do have a few tools up your sleeve to help get unstuck. Along with the winch, most vehicles feature four-wheel drive and differential locks, which make the tyres turn at the same speed. When you turn them on, they will greatly improve a vehicle's ability to gain traction. However, they also greatly increase fuel consumption.
I don't know about you guys, but the idea of getting stuck in mud a lot just doesn't scream fun to me.
Well, Hex, there are actually people who go off-roading and get cars stuck on purpose, just so they can winch them out again. Clearly, some humans derive pleasure from it.
Yes, it certainly is a strange pastime. Maybe it's a human thing and not a robot thing, Darren.
Maybe so, Barjo. Maybe so.
Well, for a while there, I admit I was having fun. There's a real element of strategy and planning to the objectives, and it's rewarding when you succeed. But it still wasn't long before I got bored slowly trudging through the mud again.
Yes, I think a bit more variety would have helped. All of the maps are basically the same. Maybe some dynamic weather could have mixed things up. Maybe a snowy map or some sandy ones, just something.
Affirmative. Another thing I would like to see is a more detailed damage system. Each vehicle simply has a certain number of damage points it can sustain before it breaks down. But every little bump and scrape with a tree costs a few points, so it can feel a bit unfair when you burst into flames, even when you've been driving carefully.
Yeah, given how realistically everything else bends and squishes, you would have thought they'd have a similar thing for vehicle damage. But anyway, what did you think of the multiplayer, Barjo?
Well, it's pretty basic. It's pretty much the same as the single player, except you've got up to 3 other friends with you trucking about. But I quite like that you can have friends about to help you out in a tough situation.
Yeah, it's a nice feature, but you really do need to have some real-life friends to play with you, since there's rarely more than 10 other people online.
You know what, overall, I really like this game because it's so different. It sets out to do something, which is be a truck simulator in the dirt, and it does it well, so I think it's worth 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I mean, there's some nice tech there, and it certainly has potential, but this really just didn't grab me, so I'm giving it 6.5.
Well, sadly, that's all the time we have for this week.
But you know what that means.
Affirmative. It's time to unveil the answer to my challenge. Earlier in the show, I asked you what was the first game to feature Kirby, and the answer is Kirby's Dream Land. Developed by gaming legend Masahiro Sakurai, Kirby's Dream Land was released in 1992 for the Game Boy. Sakurai-san wanted to make a simple game that even noobs could play.
Oh, nice one, Darren.
Oh, guess what, guys? Over on our show for older gamers on ABC2, we're planning to celebrate some of the greatest games ever made.
That's right. We're looking for the top 100 games of all time, and we'd like you, the Spawn Links, to help us choose.
To vote for your top game of all time, you'll need to go here. And because it's almost impossible to decide on just one, Kerry has decreed that each person gets to nominate 3 games.
It's gonna be so hard to choose a top 3 even.
Yeah, absolutely, Hex. Get voting now because voting closes on the 27th of July. Well, until next week, guys, Barjo out.
Hex out.
Darren out.
Okay, so Minecraft.
Yeah, Sonic 2.
Portal 2.
Sonic 2 again. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 again.